Imagine waking up one day to discover that a federal government agency has been quietly amassing a massive digital database containing nearly 1 billion firearm records. You might think it's impossible in a country that values the Second Amendment as fiercely as ours, but it's not impossible. In fact, it is being updated at the time of making this video. So today, we'll talk about how the ATF is creating a national gun registry and what we can do to take it down, because I swear, these people never learn. In 2021, a whistleblower from within the ATF leaked documents showing that the agency processed 54 million firearm transaction records in a single year. At first, gun owners across the country were stunned. Why on earth would the ATF need all these records? And what were they doing with them? The immediate suspicion was that they might be centralizing them, turning these documents into a searchable digital database. Sure enough, as lawmakers started poking around, the story got even more disturbing. The ATF admitted to having nearly 1 billion records, and even more concerning, over 90% of them were stored in digital form. For a little perspective, the Firearms Owners Protection Act, or FOPA, explicitly bans the federal government from creating any kind of national registry of firearms or firearm owners. And yet, thanks to multiple FOIA requests and some congressional muscle, it quickly became clear that the ATF's records were indeed searchable by firearm make, model, and serial number. Here's the problem. If you can pull up someone's name after searching by the gun they purchased, you effectively have a registry. Think about it. If the government can see in one fell swoop who owns every AR-15 or every 9mm pistol, that's basically a backdoor to a complete list of gun owners. But it gets even worse. The ATF's manual for scanning these forms, called 4473s, outlines how they can be digitized and stored in formats like PDF or even Excel spreadsheets. These same documents can be sorted, filtered, and manipulated to produce detailed reports. In short, the ATF has created exactly what the Second Amendment was designed to prevent: a massive government database that tells them who owns which firearms. Now, to anyone who cherishes their right to keep and bear arms, this is a clear and present danger. The reality of gun control throughout history is that registration often paves the way for confiscation. Don't just take my word for it. Look at examples from Europe and Australia. In Australia, after a mandatory buyback program in 1996, which came on the heels of gun registration, law-abiding citizens lost their firearms in droves. In the UK, registration likewise led to forced surrenders of firearms. Even more chilling are regimes like Nazi Germany, where registries were used as tools for disarming and controlling the populace. When a government knows exactly who owns guns and what kinds they own, the path to confiscation, whether immediate or gradual, becomes all too easy. Thankfully, some of our elected representatives have taken notice. Representative Michael Cloud, alongside 52 other members of Congress, began demanding answers from the ATF. They wanted to know how it was possible that the Bureau, prohibited by law from maintaining a national registry, ended up with nearly 1 billion firearm records, most of them digitized. Congressman Jim Jordan, head of the House Judiciary Committee, also voiced his concerns on national television, arguing that the very existence of this database was evidence that the Biden administration was overstepping its authority to undermine the Second Amendment. You see, the ATF defends itself by claiming it needs these records for crime investigations. The Bureau even points to its location in West Virginia, saying these files are just stored there for trace purposes and not forming a registry. But as soon as you start digitizing the data, letting agents search by category of firearm, you've effectively built the foundation of a registry, one that could be weaponized by any administration interested in restricting or confiscating firearms. To make matters worse, the Biden administration signed off on an executive order making these records permanent. Before, there was at least a requirement to destroy background check records within a certain time frame. Now the administration has mandated that these records be kept indefinitely, even if a gun store goes out of business. The question practically asks itself, why would they need to preserve all these records forever, if not to have the power to track down who owns what? That's where the No Registry Rights Act comes in. This piece of legislation, sponsored by Representative Michael Cloud in the House and Senator James Risch in the Senate, aims to destroy the ATF's existing database and prohibit similar databases in the future. The goal is straightforward. If the American people do not want a national gun registry, and if the law already bans such a registry, Then let's make sure the ATF complies. The bill requires the destruction of all existing records, yes, all 1 billion of them, and compels the ATF to certify that none remain hidden on any hard drives. There's a reason for such thoroughness. Without a certification requirement, there's always the risk that some version of the data might be stashed away in a digital closet, waiting for a future administration to put it back into action. When it comes to legislation, phone calls, emails, and social media posts can seriously influence your representatives. Don't underestimate the power of a unified voice. Politicians, even if they're anti-gun, tend to pay attention to what their voters have to say, especially in large numbers. Call your congressman, call your senators, and tell them to support the No Registry Rights Act. Demand that they co-sponsor it if they haven't already, and hold them accountable if they make excuses. Let them know that any infringement on the Second Amendment is a direct attack on the freedoms we hold dear, and that we are watching how they vote. One of the most outrageous parts of this registry fiasco is how the ATF tries to justify it. They've repeatedly stated in hearings that they're merely scanning documents for administrative purposes, and that they pay Adobe extra money to remove any ability to search by a buyer's name. But searching by model, make, or serial number, only to pull up the name and address on the digitized Form 4473, is effectively the same thing with extra steps. It's like saying, we're not directly searching for your name, we're just searching for the gun you bought, then conveniently seeing who bought it. That might seem like a trivial difference, but it's enormous when we're talking about a fundamental constitutional right. The Firearms Owners Protection Act was passed precisely to avoid creating a scenario where the federal government can pinpoint exactly who owns which firearms. What really sets off alarm bells is how easily such a registry could be abused. Imagine a future administration decides that AR-15s are no longer permissible. With a few keystrokes, every single 4473 indicating a purchase of an AR-15 or any AR pattern rifle would be retrievable in seconds. Then, letters could be sent demanding surrender, or law enforcement might show up at your door. Gun owners in states with draconian laws on certain firearm types can already relate. They know how local registries can be used to threaten lawful gun owners with felony charges if they fail to comply with new regulations. Let's not forget that every single day, the people who benefit from lawful firearm ownership are everyday citizens who simply want to protect themselves and their families. We see countless examples of armed citizens stopping robberies, defending against home invasions, and potentially saving others from harm. The Second Amendment is there to make sure that right is never taken away. A registry puts that fundamental freedom on a slippery slope. Indeed, you might hear anti-gun advocates say, if you have nothing to hide, why do you care if the government knows what guns you own? But that's a naive sentiment. True liberty means not having to provide a reason for exercising a constitutionally protected right. The Bill of Rights isn't a list of privileges granted by the government. It's a recognition of rights that already exist and must be protected against government encroachment. When the ATF was questioned by representatives like Andrew Clyde about how much of its budget goes toward digitizing these out-of-business records, the Bureau struggled to give a clear answer. They admitted they received tons of paper records, some waterlogged, some in various states, and it's a massive undertaking to scan them. But the core question remains, why scan them at all if a national registry is outlawed? The more they try to justify it, the more it becomes obvious that they're either sidestepping the law or hoping no one notices how close they are to building a complete, centralized database of gun owners. This is also why pro-Second Amendment organizations like Gun Owners of America have been so vigilant. Through FOIA requests and legislative pressure, they've exposed the truth behind this effort. They've even published a comprehensive report detailing how the ATF can use a search module to find specific firearms, linking them to the people who purchased them. This exposure isn't just about scoring political points, it's about ensuring the government abides by the law and respects the Constitution. So let's talk brass tacks. What can you do, personally, to help destroy this illegal registry? First, spread the word. Let your family, friends, and anyone you know who cares about freedom understand that this is happening right now. Second, contact your lawmakers. Even if you think they're anti-gun, make your voice heard. Flood their phone lines, send emails, tweet at them. Make sure they know that their constituents will not tolerate a government that spies on its citizens' constitutionally protected activities. Third, support pro-gun organizations that are leading the fight. Whether it's by donating, volunteering, or simply amplifying their message, adding your voice to their efforts makes a difference. The No Registry Rights Act is our best shot at forcing the ATF to reverse course. If it passes, the Bureau will have to purge this entire digital library of 4473s and other records. They won't be allowed to hide behind technicalities or executive orders. They'll be legally obligated to confirm that the database is completely wiped clean. Any attempt to keep a secret copy would be a violation of the law, punishable by legal action. This is exactly the kind of safeguard we need when dealing with agencies that have shown they'll skirt the boundaries of the law to further a gun control agenda. And let's be real about the motive behind all this. The Biden administration has made no secret of its desire to impose more restrictions on lawful gun owners. From pushing red flag laws to banning certain types of ammunition or firearms, the administration consistently frames gun control as a public safety measure. But time and again, we see that these measures only infringe upon people who follow the law in the first place, while criminals continue to ignore all the regulations. When the government collects data on lawful purchases, the only people truly affected are the upstanding citizens whose right to bear arms is now at risk. Gun owners can't afford to be complacent. We need to rally behind the No Registry Rights Act with everything we've got. Once the registry is dismantled, lawmakers must remain vigilant. We've seen, time and time again, that federal agencies sometimes reinterpret laws or implement new rules quietly, hoping no one notices. Without constant oversight, it wouldn't be surprising if the ATF tried to resurrect some form of digital tracking. That's why continuing to hold our elected officials' feet to the fire is crucial. Before we go, remember this isn't just a fight for gun enthusiasts. It's a fight for anyone who values personal freedom and the idea that the government should be accountable to the people, not the other way around. A national gun registry, no matter how it's disguised, violates the core principles on which this nation was founded. The Founding Fathers didn't write the Second Amendment because they were worried about duck hunting. They wrote it because they understood that an armed citizenry is the last defense against tyranny. So, to all proud Americans who care about liberty, now is the time to take a stand. Share this information, contact your representatives, and let's push for the destruction of this unconstitutional database. We deserve transparency and accountability, and we deserve a government that follows the law. The ATF may have created what many of us view as a national registry, but with enough pressure from gun owners and constitutional conservatives, we can and will destroy it. And that's all I have for you in this video. If there was value in it for you, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to our channel so we can grow. Click on the bell icon too so you don't miss out on future updates. Thanks for watching.